I'm back, and I've been looking forward to having Tom back. Tom is Tom Del Beccaro. He is the author of a new book called The Lessons of the American Civilization. There's a picture of the cover of the book on the screen. This is a must-read. It's not a long read, but a very important read. You can check that out. He's also the former chairman of the California Republican Party, so we both have those dirty T-shirts. He's the author of two historical perspectives, The Divided Era, The New Conservative Paradigm, and he's a columnist for Fox News, Fox Business, Epoch Times, and the publisher of the politicalvanguard.com. Tom does have a website, tomdell.com, and there's a picture of the landing page. Tom, God bless you, my friend. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Great to see you. Happy New Year. And also last year I launched Del Beccaro and Hook, a podcast, which you can get at delandhook.com, delandhook.com. And we're covering the LA fires, and had a great show last night with a lot of viewers. So it's great to see you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your time. All our brains and hearts are on tilt. What's going on in California? What's your take on the fires?
Well, at a higher level, or a 30,000 foot, if I could use that analogy in this circumstance, California permits the building of homes in high fire risk areas without providing the infrastructure and support necessary to fight fires. That's not just true in LA. It's true throughout the state. An astonishing 2.7 million Californians, including myself, live in high fire districts. And the number of fires of California has dramatically increased, not because of climate change. In fact, since 2020 to 2023, that's 24 total years, the average number of acres burned was, are you ready, Perry? 954,000 acres a year. 1 year it was as low as 90,000. 1 year it was as high as 1.49 million acres. This isn't a constant. Now, why has it become this way? Well, the environmental lobby in this state for years has been the linchpin on policy. And they've done several things. One, they've shut down the logging industry. Why does that matter? Because it was the logging industry that managed forests, cleared underbrush, and reduced fires. But they have killed off that industry to a great degree, and as a result, underbrush isn't being managed sufficiently. That's number one. Number two, they've stopped utilities from cutting back trees and foliage from near wires. That adds to fire risk. They've also shut down the amount of water places like Los Angeles get. So if you visit one of these rich neighborhoods in Los Angeles, including the Palisades where I've been, you'd be shocked to look at their front lawns this time of year, which are brown. I remember the first time I saw it, I was blown away. And it's not just the lawn that's brown, but the foliage around it becomes tinder as well. And by not allowing sufficient water to these areas, you increase the fire risk. There's not enough reservoirs in California. Our water system was built for 22 million. On any given day, there's nearly 40 million in California. The list goes on. And then, of course, there's the idiocy of the locals. Karen Bass cut the fire budget by 17 million. What you may not have heard, Perry, is that she increased the library by 14. That was her choice, fire or library. She was warned, she didn't care. Newsom cut hundreds of millions of dollars over the years from what should have been for firefighting. So you add all of these things up, and shock of shocks, overgrown forests, and not just forests, neighborhoods. I don't live in a forest. I live near heavy thicket. Shock of shock, sparks start fires, fireworks start fires apparently in LA this time around, and winds blow. And of course, then they claim climate change. Well, the Santa Ana winds have existed for thousands and thousands of years. They actually don't even start in California. They start east come whipping through the high desert, and when they hit a hill, a mountain, they rush down the mountain. Anybody who knows anything about wind shear knows that around mountains it actually accelerates. And it dries out the land in the process. But at the end of the day, what's new isn't the Santa Ana winds or the mountains or the trees. What is new is that we permit the building of homes without providing infrastructure to support fire fighting, and it turns to tragedy.
Gosh, where do I go with this?
Did I filibuster there too much?
No, you've explained a lot. We certainly want to keep our focus on people who have lost everything and make sure they're taken care of, and that the resources are there. I haven't heard any stories about how they're being taken care of. I've heard a lot of stories about what you just mentioned. But the point being to you is we got a huge breakdown in management here, and a lot of people are waking up. Will it in time wake up California as a whole on how they've been managed?
Well, I, for years, have been saying California is beginning to bottom out because, as you can imagine, back from our days, I'm always asked, well, can Republicans make a comeback in this state, right? Have you been asked that question? And it's a difficult question to answer in the positive, but I do point out that, and I have been, that Californians are beginning to bottom out on homelessness. They bottomed out on crime. They voted 70% to repeal that terrible law regarding retail theft, including 2/3 of Democrats. So it's very possible that they're beginning to bottom out on this issue as well. I think they have to a significant degree. The nation is awakened to it. The nation sees the lunacy of protecting a 3-inch bait fish, which is not, by the way, endangered. It's endangered in one location, but it exists throughout the globe. The world's seeing how ludicrous it is to make policy based on that versus policy based on keeping people safe and alive. So the answer is yes, it's moving. You know who also has to move? All those people. Mm-hmm. Because 70% of the people in that area don't have fire insurance. Now, some of them are rich enough, but some of them just have to leave because they can't afford to rebuild.
Let me jump ahead and come back while it's on my mind. The devastation is just beyond our ability to process. We see these images and we're just shaking our head. It's just hard to process. And more winds on the way and less containment. It's just kind of the overall put your brain on tilt. Does LA, are they going to be forced to forfeit the Olympics?
It's possible because this fire isn't done. It's burning itself out. What I mean by that is it's consuming this fuel, but the winds are slated to kick up again, and they could horrifically go into UCLA and other places. So if I had to say today, my answer would be probably not. But since the size of this fire is unprecedented, not unpredictable, but unprecedented, I can hope and pray it doesn't destroy more people's lives.
Yeah.
In addition to demanding the replacement of all these people involved. As you know from your position, which you and I shared, not everybody's a good governor or a good chief executive officer, right. Not even a good head coach. Some people are a better assistant coach than a head coach.
Right.
Gavin Newsom's a terrible governor in the sense that he's not good at managing people or creating consensus. He's good at posing and saying, I'm for, but not getting things done. And Karen Bass, I mean, she went to courses in Cuba. What else can I say? The woman is completely not responsible or capable of this job. LA County is bigger than 42 states.
Right.
She can't handle that.
No. So, Tom, Newsom, Bass, Harris, done because of this?
Well, certainly Bass is done. She's going to get recalled if she doesn't resign. Newsom, now I believe is done for as far as the eye can see. When you write history books, like your former guest, you know that Richard Nixon declared himself done and 7 years later was elected president. So I never say never, but he's pretty close to Neverland. As far as Harris goes, right in a couple of days after the election, I think even you asked me if she was done. I said, no, she's young. But she has done very poorly ever since. And so she's also closer to Neverland than she was even on November 5th.
Well, let me take a break. We're just having a hard, I am up here. You know, what's happening in your backyard happened in our backyard 3.5, 4 years ago. It's called the Alameda Fire. And within 48 hours, we lost 2 towns completely burnt to the ground. We could sit on our backyards and watch this town burn to the ground. Low humidity, high winds, ended up being an arson. I don't know, I guess there's a lot of investigations going on down there. But when you look back on this, all the meteorologists in that area were predicting the conditions. And you kind of shake your head that trigger crazy people.
Yeah, there's no question about it. That firefighting, though, is not the highest priority. Keeping people safe is not the highest priority in California. Social justice is. And this is showing it in lethal consequences. But that's why I started out this interview saying that on average 954,000 acres burn a year. So this is a very bad example of what can happen, but this happens every year. And in fact, in Malibu, there was a very serious fire in December, and then of course this fire burned significant parts of Malibu. But they refuse to adjust their behavior. They just don't care about people's safety. And in fact, in my podcast week this Sunday, we covered the fact that there are environmentalists who use destruction to get their way and have for many, many years. They don't care about the people. They want the people out of California to return it to its natural state. That's not me saying that. They say that.
Yeah. All right, let me take a quick break. TomDell.com is his website, TomDell.com. A must-read is his latest book, The Lessons of the American Civilization. And there's a picture of the cover of the book. You'll find this to be extremely resourceful. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Honored to have back with us Tom Del Beccaro. He's the author of a fascinating book. I think you have to get this one. It's called The Lessons of the American Civilization. There's a picture of the cover of the book on the screen. He is also former chairman of the California Republican Party. You probably have seen or heard of his columns there at Fox News, Fox Business, Epoch Times, the publisher of the politicalvanguard.com. He does have a website, TomDell.com. And again, your podcast, Tom, where?
Is Del, D-E-L, and Hook, all one word, Hook as in captain, DellandHook.com.
Okay, check it out. Gosh, so much here. How do you think things will go for Donald Trump in his first 100 days?
Well, first of all, I want to agree with your prior guest that the whole Greenland thing and everything else, everything was about peak Hegseth, yada, yada, yada. And then he brought up Greenland, and they all went into a tizzy. So they looked over there. Although, what isn't being reported enough is that the NATO Secretary General several years ago in 2022 said that NATO needed a greater presence there for security reasons. So what Trump is saying, NATO agrees with, the NATO Secretary General. He's not out on a limb on this. So the first 100 days are going to be, as a historian, I can tell you, probably unprecedented, because they're going to be moving on so many fronts that the media, even the modern media, with all its technological abilities and assets, won't be able to keep up. Many things will happen. They'll go not covered, I was going to say uncovered, but uncovered by the press. So it's going to be very fast-paced. I think, of course, on the big issue, the border, they figured out last time around how to do it. It took 2 or 3 years. Now they know how to do it. So they're going to have good results there fairly quickly. I think the Hamas, today, the breaking news was that Hamas and Israel had a breakthrough. I think there will be a breakthrough. Hamas doesn't want anything to do with Trump. So I think on a foreign policy front, the world will become quieter. He'll defund Iran. Iran will become quieter. So on the foreign policy, I think it'll be a great success, even within those first 100 days. Excuse me. The biggest challenge here, honestly, prior chairman, you may have known him, Jim Brulte of California, said the hardest thing is saying no to your friends. The hardest thing for Republicans, for Trump, will be saying no to his Republican friends who are going to try and get something for themselves out of the tax bill and the reconciliation.
There you go.
That's the only question I have.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's very good. A couple of other quick questions. Back to NATO just for a moment. Do you think Trump will force Turkey out of NATO, or NATO?
Yeah, this is a very good question. The two largest dynamics this year will be Doge. Your prior guest covered that. But the defunding of Iran is going to change everything, even the acts of Turkey. Because as all that Iranian money dries up and Lebanon potentially gets on a track to normality, then the actions of Turkey, especially in and around Syria, become all the more obvious. And so I don't think they'll be out of NATO, but I think the spotlight's going to be on them in the second half of the year and into next year, 2026. And so you raise a good question.
Well, I just can't see how NATO can tolerate Turkey being a member, but that's yet to be seen. Back to California.
I've often said that.
Yeah. Back to California just for a moment, Tom. A two-pointed question here. Is it true that Governor Newsom pulled $100 million away from state fire protection? And then number two, is it true that at any point between 45 days and 90 days that California could be insolvent?
It is true that in one fell swoop he took $100 million, but the number over the years has been more than $300 million that he has taken away from fire. And he lied about what they actually were doing. He made some outrageous claim of millions of acres being treated or remediated, but it was only like 90,000. Or it was I'm not sure the actual numbers, but he lied and was caught lying about it. So it's just not a priority with him. You saw him lie to that woman on air. I'm talking to him right now. Oh, I want to see. Well, I can't get through. I mean, that's the way he is. What was your
how close how close is it to insolvency?
Well, they can decide not to go with their $325 billion budget and cut back. So what's insolvent is the state fund for insurance for fires, but the state isn't in jeopardy. Sure, look, it's long-term debts that I wrote about 5 years ago at Forbes are insane. So to say that California is solvent is to say to someone, well, I can pay my bills, but not my $100,000 credit card. So it depends on what you mean by insolvent.
Well, you got a lot of people leaving. You got a lot of corporations leaving. I guess that's Musk started that
because
and ended up with.
They don't want to be around for that tax bill.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop. Chevron, which was a quintessential California company, is now a quintessential Houston, Texas company. And they've been planning this for years. They didn't just like open up a P.O. box at a UPS store. They planned this out years in advance.
Oh. Wow. Good stuff. We're going to run out of time quickly. What do you want people to get from your new book?
There's a whole lot to get there, but what I try and get people to understand is a lot of these circumstances have happened before, so we should know the dynamic so we can make better decisions going forward.
Good. Tom, you're a delight. Thank you for your time. God bless you, my friend. You're a man of faith and you're a man of courage, so appreciate you, brother. So hang in there and let's stay connected.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, go to tomdell.com, check out his website, and check out the book, and check out his podcast.